Actually, know Amy too, because we worked on projects together.
That's right. That's right. So, and then within the bond office itself, looking at budget conditions and the nature of the projects, things like Jeff, our director of operations, on the bond, and our maintenance leadership and some of our maintenance techs on the bond, and restructuring what we think about the core office staff for the bond office. And so our bond program coordinator position is no longer there. And so Amy Berger is no longer with the district. And we created a new, more senior bond accounting position, and have that out at the moment, looking for folks. Linn-Wilsonville, our awesome bond accountant, found a great position that's very beneficial to her. And so she's also moved into another direction. A lot of challenge in those changes. But we have the more senior bond accounting position out. We've been doing interviews, and we have an administrative assistant position in the bond office that's currently open. So restructuring that and shifting some duties around to folks who are more directly engaged in some of the projects is part of what we've been about the last several months, as well as Kelly bringing on 3 project managers full-time for the program to be overseeing a lot of the projects. So I just want to do a quick kind of intro on that and why some faces are shifting and changing around here. There'll be points where individual project managers might come to a long-range planning committee meeting to share a bit about their own projects. Kelly will often be here to speak to things. Jeff and certain members of his team will often be here because there's a lot of, the carpet replacements and equipment replacements and those things where there's no one more efficient or effective to do it than them. So we'll have them do it directly. So some of those faces will shift meeting to meeting here for the group. So with that said, then the first item on our agenda is approving our minutes from last time. So we've got those on a tab up on the screen, and I don't know if folks have had a chance to see those. In the shuffle, I was wondering today, I couldn't actually find if they had actually been sent to you all ahead of time.
It's been, I think that
is that there? Okay, that's what I thought, but I couldn't find the sent email. So this is the point in the agenda where I pause a moment and say, are there any comments, questions, or concerns around those minutes? And seeing none, we will approve those minutes. We'll get them posted up on the website in the near future. And then we'll roll into the 2019 bond program. So you'll see we don't have a quarterly report fully put together for you today. We're at that point where there's a few things kind of trailing here at the end. And so there's always the point in the bond cycle where we don't dedicate that amount of staff time to generating those reports in detail. And this last quarter in particular has been a little tight in staffing bandwidth. But the primary updates for the 19 bond are for the Frog Pond Primary School. We had the building dedication. We've had open houses, opportunity for hundreds and hundreds of people to get to flow through the building, see the school, ask questions. There's a photo of the ribbon being cut there. Folks from city and district leadership, as well as a number of students that expect to be attending this fall. So it's a great opportunity for the community to get to gather together and celebrate the opening of the school and a very successful project. Alongside that, we're down to, I think it's 20 punch list items outstanding for the contractor, which is very, very modest. And so we're in the coming weeks, we would hope that those are addressed and we're able to fully close out that contract and effectively that project, which is a very exciting, big milestone. For Athey Creek Middle School, I have that modest amount of, oh, sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
just curious if there's overall sense of what the community's response has been to Frog Pond in terms of like touring it and just
Yeah.
overall like yay or.
Yeah, yes, tons of excitement. It's always so fun to, it's been 5 years of working on this thing, to let people see it finally. And to see children, going, oh, wow, look at this, oh, wow, and going around and the furniture and the spaces and the windows, the light and all of those, the playground, very accessible. And parents and a lot of staff have gotten a chance to go through, been a lot of really positive feedback on that. And another layer that often gets overlooked is inviting that community that lives directly around there, whether they've got students coming or not. A lot of older families coming in and, they've been hearing the beep, beep and bang, bang for all this time. And it's so heartwarming to get to see them come through and be excited about it. So
we had an open house.
Yep.
This was a ribbon cutting, it was an open house. Month prior to that, something like
yeah.
that. Really well attended. I was surprised how many people came. Some who didn't have kids, who just neighbors and they wanted to see what it was like. But lots of families from different areas, even like some from the Fox Hills neighborhood were like, we'd like to check this out. We're not sure this is going to be right for us, but we'd like to check it out. Yeah, lots of families and kids really well attended. I don't know what the numbers were, but was surprised at just how crowded.
Yeah, I think between the three events, probably between 500 and 600 people have come through. A lot, and lots of really, really positive feedback, which is fun to see.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then Athey Creek, there is a modest amount of work primarily along the roadway that is outstanding from the contractor's termination. Everybody has been very focused on getting Frog Pond ready for school opening, and now the team is fully turning the attention over to finishing that. So the surety has gotten an initial price to complete the work from a contractor, actually the same contractor that finished at Frog Pond. The team's kind of all gelled at this point, and they wanted to do that. And so we're working through just finalizing, making sure they fully understand what they're getting into and that the price is correct. And then the expectation is late spring and summer, they'll complete all of that work, and we'll close that one out as well. Nick Rayner, our project manager that handled Frog Pond and worked through all of this process for us. It's his first big project in his career, so he got quite the experience. But now being able to say, okay, Nick, all this you've learned about working with a surety and how to close out a big project that's complicated and none of the same people are here. We're actually leveraging that experience immediately and saying, okay, you're going to carry this one forward. And of course, Kelly and I are here to support. But he's already been out with all the team and getting that working. So we're hoping in the next month we'll have a contract in place, and then we'll complete that project over the summer. Any questions around Athey Creek at all? All right. There's minor other things happening. As we get finalization on these things, on those two big projects, there are a few projects left on the 19 bond. And once we have certainty on where we're landing financially very soon here on those two big projects, we'll then actually launch those, because there's a burden of making sure that we're spending out the rest of the funds. So we'll be working hard to spend out the 19 bond over the next year and a half, as well as ramping up and doing the new bond. Yeah.
How do you decide what you're spending the 2019 bond out on? Is that already determined, or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what is it?
Yeah,
Maintenance,
I don't, yeah, it's what our district-wide improvements category of projects. So in 2027, we're going to be replacing Beckman's roof. Part of the roofing replacement was under the 19 bond, and the 25 bond has the money to do the rest. And it was one of those where we did enough patching to hold it together, said, okay, let's get past all of this issue with the surety and making sure that, we're not going to have to come up with a lot of money here. Now that we're past that, we can say, okay, that project will happen in 2027, and we'll do that. I don't recall all of the specifics, but it's from the original 19 bond list of projects that's happening.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions around 19 bond?
Will there be some sort of report put together? I think, just especially with Frog Pond opening, I think like that might, it feels to me like this might be the last substantial report about exciting things getting done. And I know people that I talked to have been sending those reports, so I'm wondering if there'll just be something that will be produced.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
picture and some of these bullet points that you shared verbally today.
Yeah, so you're meaning specific to tonight? We can absolutely do that. Put a
Yeah, I
little
know you
something
mentioned
together.
you didn't have time to get to it, but I think having something would probably be a good idea.
Absolutely. And we do intend, over that period, there will be updates and more brief commentary and notes and things. But we probably won't, there's some extra hours in producing the nice graphical piece, which Kelly and I and others are working very hard at generating what that's going to look like for this very different program. So at our July meeting, next time we get together, we'll be presenting the first draft of how we are looking to present all the financial and progress data to you all. Then, of course, the opportunity to talk it through, make sure it's fitting the goal. And then it will probably be more of a summary sheet on updates for the 19th bond moving forward.
Just to follow up with what Ryan said, what I hear from the community and the people who are paying attention is they probably want to hear more, not less, of sort of quarterly reports and what. So I think they're not looking for things to get shrunk. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for the next program.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, if anything, there's conversation about, given the nature of the program, how do we make sure there is enough of that transparency where people feel like they can understand what's happening? Because it's going to be a whole lot of smaller projects. And so we'll be looking through, this is the 4th program launch that I've been a part of. And each time there's been some differences in how we've done the report and making sure that we're being thoughtful about the nature of the program and the community's ability to understand what it is we're doing, where the money's going, how things are being spent. But in terms of the 19 bond, the nature of it is such that we'll still have that clarity of, the total budget and what's committed and what's spent, what's happening. But it'll probably be a more summarized document moving forward for that program.
I mean, I'll share with you. I serve on the Clackamas Community College Board, and we're currently in bond projects right now. And I found they have like a 1-pager, 1.5-pager kind of bullet list of all the things that have happened every month. They do a report and then have an additional attachment with pictures and things like that. And I think as a board member, but also for the community, because a lot of the projects impact the community, I think that's been a really helpful way to do it, and it's easy to digest.
Mm-hmm.
And I find bullet points to be helpful and pictures to be great. So I can pass that along as maybe that might be a model
Yeah, please.
to kind of inform as you
Yeah,
guys
please
rework
show a
for
sample
next
of it.
year. Yeah.
That'd be great. The goal isn't that we get to show how clever we are. It's to get the information out in a useful manner. So we love taking in ways other people have done things and see how useful they can be. Excellent.
Has the community talked about how they want that information? I mean, I agree. And I love bullet points and pictures. That's really digestible. Like, I wonder, how are you planning on sending this information out?
Sending it out in advance,
Or,
well in advance of our meeting.
okay,
And the goal of that conversation, the next meeting, is to talk about, what the committee thinks about it. Is it meeting the goal? Are there other things you would want to see? That sort of thing.
and would this be sent like email from the school district, like Andrew would send it out, like to everybody in the school, parents in the school district? Or we just say, hey, if you
Long
want this
range.
information, like look here at, at this website, or
Right.
I don't know.
So so in terms of the quarterly report information, we look to the long range planning committee for that feedback because it's the district's report to you, and by extension, your report to the board, in terms of what that is. In addition, speaking of folks that small portions of their time will be allocated to the bond program, both Andrew and Justin in our communications department are starting to meet with us, and we're exploring, like, how do we take that communication on the website to the next level? so that there's more and different updates. And, we do I always use the word listserv, which is the old word for it, but those email blasts that go out. How do we, as projects are happening, if there's something that folks need to know, if there's a, potential street lane closure or, after hours work, or just, at some interval for each project, where's that? What's the right way to just communicate and update out to the full community? So we're really looking into how do we do that in a bigger way? And again, we're very much in the start of all those conversations now, but that'll be a big part of the discussion in July. Not only what we're doing, what's physically happening, but, okay, recently you received a draft quarterly report. Probably looks pretty different than times before. What does the committee think about that? Here's some examples of a couple project pages on the website. Let's talk through, what the committee thinks about that. Here's our plan for how we're, sending out email alerts to families at schools based on what's happening. And, again, that'll all be a big part of that conversation in July. Make sure that the Long Range Planning Committee feels comfortable with the info it's receiving, so that you're able to go to the board with some confidence and say, yes, staff is, communicating what's happening, and we believe it's in line with, the board, the bond goals. So,
I think the baseline of what the community should expect for bond information and communication is, one, making sure that website is really up to date, and as we're doing work, we're making updates there. Remo mentioned those listservs. Really what it is they're project updates. So community members can sign up for news to specific projects. This will be a little different bond in that, talking about a lot of district-wide improvements, there's not those big ticket items like a Frog Pond primary or Yankee Creek Middle School, right? So that's something we'll think through. And then at minimum, regular updates in our district newsletter that are very specific to the bond of here's what happened this past month, and kind of like we're talking about, like these one pager, like that's a perfect example of some chunk and chew information we can provide the community. So that there's very brief information that someone who's kind of interested but not necessarily into the nitty gritty can get that big overview, and then they can drill in deeper with more information on that website is kind of the approach we'll go for it.
Yeah, I think
I should have just had you answer that first.
I think we're really fortunate that the public has made this investment and promised this money into the district. And I think because there aren't big ticket items, there's a lot of little projects. And I think particularly in our current environment, transparency and excitement and energy around what these dollars are doing, not only for the students, but for the community, I think will be really important. So I really like the idea of the monthly regular updates. Maybe there's individual, I liked how the website got put together where you could go to each school and say, here's what the projects are. And so I'm even envisioning modeling that in some sense to say maybe that's what gets communicated even to the PTAs of those schools. Because I mean, even as we were advocating for the bond and working, putting out signs and things like that, I think community members, it was really important to know how this was impacting their local school and those improvements, because these are like Beckman's roof is a big quality improvement to that school. So I think as much as we can do, I think will be really important, and I think will bode well for future bonds and levies as we think about how we continue to invest in the schools, particularly when we're in a budget season that we're in as well. In that aspect.
And we've had a lot of conversations about what these projects mean and the excitement of these projects. There's a lot of projects that mean a lot to me. It's just deferred maintenance across the district. But along with this is this updating technology and updating and doing things better, more efficiently, and us talking about what this actually means to the education and the environment of our students. And we've talked about how do we get that message across to the public? Does that make sense? Yep. So we're right on the same page and sort of aligned on what we're thinking too. Because it is cool in our world, but is it cool for everyone? And how do we sort of relay that excitement?
And even simple things like buying some new vans. We got some 15-year-old vehicles with many, many hard miles on them. And somebody said, well, why is the district buying new vehicles? Can't you just fix it? Well, actually now the repair bills to rebuild the whole front end of that 350 series vehicle. And then next year it'll happen again and again. Actually, purchasing that vehicle means that we no longer have that heavy annual maintenance cost on the vehicle. And so again, even, simple things like that, and trying to make sure it's clear to the community the value they're getting out of those expenditures. And it's great to be hearing all this from you. It's very, as Jeff said, very much in line. And that's why we said, look, Andrew, like you and Justin, like we need more of your time supporting this bond to make sure that we're getting this out really well. So I'm excited to do that more in-depth conversation in
I'm
July.
trying to think of framing the thing. So I think the theme that I just heard from you is spend a little to save a lot. And I think that could be something that kind of comes through those reports to show that it's wise investments that are going to be really paying off.
Yep. A lot of those and a lot of, we got the full life out of this thing. We're replacing carpet at Westland High School. It's 22 years old. It is wearing thin and it's wore out. And we got the full life out. This is not just we want to change the color scheme kind of thing. And so there's a lot of that message and a lot of replacing the light fixture with more efficient lights and replacing vehicles that are breaking down all the time. All of that to accumulate together to show like this is stewardship work to benefit the community and to save operating costs into the future with this capital money. So, any other thoughts around that topic at the moment? And as always, any thoughts or ideas or something you've seen and said, hey, I really liked receiving information this way, send it my way. And we'll add it into all the things that we're looking to and considering as we develop what that's going to look like. So, awesome. Thank you for that conversation. Okay. So other 2025 bond things, some of these I'm going to kind of jump through relatively quickly. As always, stop me. If you got any questions or comments, please. We mentioned before we were well underway with signing up construction management group. Kelly and team are here. We are rocking and rolling with them. We did have an RFP for architectural services. We had 8 firms submit proposals for that, and it was the cream of the Pacific Northwest education design. And any one of those firms could have done a ton of work on this program. The way we structured the RFP was that we're looking for a prime architecture firm, a significant group that can handle the kind of bandwidth that we had on this program, and has experience in all of the relevant work. An interesting thing was actually Kelly's idea that she brought forward from her experience other places to say, we've done a lot of conversation about how do we involve smaller businesses and, MWESB firms and improve contractor diversity and things. And she asked the very thoughtful question, how do we do that with design, with consulting? So for the first time in that RFP, we included points for how does your firm plan to engage small, local, and emerging businesses into it. And I mean, this is an impressive industry full of really sharp folks. It was a pleasure to read through all of that and see what the firms came up with. The firm Arcadis, who we have worked with before, was selected. We had a selection committee that all independently scored, and then we did a short list of interviews, and then did some final scoring. And that was the group selected. We presented that to the board. The board authorized us to negotiate a contract with them, and we are underway. Again, a really robust process. Firms seem to really take to heart how different this program is. It's not, 60% of the program is 2 or 3 projects. It's a lot of small things. And how does a large firm need to approach that differently to do well? And several firms had outstanding presentations on how they plan to do that. And the one firm rose to the top, and we're very excited to be underway with that. Any questions around that process? And again, if not in July, then maybe October, we'll probably have some representatives from that group come, chat a little bit, get them introduced to you all. A lot of it, we want them back in their office, getting going on designs here. But we want to make sure that they get to meet you all a little bit. Okay. So again, Kelly and I primarily, but with a lot of support from others, working on that initial program schedule. Everyone wants their work done in summer of 26, but it's going to take us 5, 6, 7 years to do the work. And so mapping that out, trying to deal with prioritization, what needs replacement most urgently, how can we, quickly move through security upgrades, so on and so forth. So again, part of the presentation we hope to have in July is, okay, here's our draft conceptual schedule that we're starting. And then of course, keep you up to date on how that's going over the course of the bond.
So are there no projects that will be done already?
Oh no, there's a whole list here. We'll get to in just a second. My little internal notes. Yeah, so that program schedule is there. By the end of May, my goal is to meet with every principal and talk with them about what's happening this year, next year, the year following, and then over time, again, more about that longer lifespan of the program. In terms of projects that are currently underway, just the list of what we're hoping to actually physically do this summer. Westland High School and Wilsonville High School, their track and their football field synthetic turf. We've probably heard a thing or two over time about those. So we're well underway, hoping to sign contracts in the next week or so for that work happening this summer. And then
Is that displaced teams or is it?
Yes, it will for a brief time. The hope is to start the work actually a little before school is out in order to reduce that time that impacts it in the fall. So we're looking at like, when's the last day of the spring sports? How quickly can we get the contractors in there while being safe and not disruptive? Because it's a noisy process. And then get them done as soon as we can in the summer. Now we've prepared the school leaderships for this could go into September. We don't have final schedules yet. We don't, when we open things up, you never know what's happening in the ground. So we just kind of give them some warning, but we expect to complete it before the school year. But we'll see.
And we're also starting to have conversations with the communities, youth sports and stuff like that, to make sure they are well aware of, it's sort of a rebuild year of a lot of these facilities, which will impact our sports. So we've tried to give these groups as much heads up as possible so they can start to look for making adjustments, maybe more away games, stuff like that. Andrew and I met with a couple of them last week. And so we're really trying to be proactive in that because we don't want to get down the road and surprise everybody. And just this realistic view of it could be this, but we're hoping for this, but plan for this.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And it's, again, a lot of folks working together to try to keep folks appraised of what's happening. Then 3 additional sports fields, turf getting replaced, 2 women's softball, one at Rosemont, which is Westland High School's field, and the older one at Wilsonville. And then at Rosemont, the football field. Those 3 fields are about to go out to bid.
Went out today.
Oh, they went out today. They're out to bid today
Due April 28th.
for replacement this summer. That's a project we expect will probably push into the fall a little more, especially as 2 of them are softball fields. If we provide the contractor a little more time into the fall to complete the work, and we're not competing with all the football projects, we feel we can get a lot better pricing, a lot better crew availability to get the work done. And our weather stays good enough to do the work, usually through mid-October. And so giving them a little time into the fall means we should be able to benefit a lot in terms of price. Riverside High School, not under the bond, but I'm putting all the turf things together with the impending sale of Oppenlander, the board directed staff to build 2 sports fields at Riverside High School, a baseball field, a softball field, synthetic turf infields. And so that work, the design is complete. It's out on the street right now for completion this summer. And so again, that's from land fund proceeds based around the Oppenlander sale. Other things, equipment. I mentioned vans, trucks. Jeff, maybe just a quick word on, there's a whole range of equipment you guys have been starting to order up.
There is, across the board. Again, this is a bond that really affects our operations team, and we've pieced together a lot of equipment. Rebo's talked a little bit about the cost of piecing this equipment, and a lot of it's end of life. So there's lifts, there's vans, there's another one is with the shortage of like staffing, and the extra strain on custodial staffing. There's stuff in the bond for new custodial equipment. Our custodial supervisor Tress is going around right now and assessing all the schools on where are they at with their floor scrubbers, vacuums, all that type of equipment, making sure we're getting the best equipment so our staff can do things most efficiently and safely. We're looking at lifts to be able to access roofs. We have a lot of high roofs that right now we can't get to, and we'll rent big lifts. And when we have roofing issues due to fall requirements, other OSHA requirements, to be able to do it safely for our team to be able to get up there, protect the inside, protect the envelope, make sure to do the repair, but do it safely and follow the guidelines and regulations. It's just a vast scope of equipment that is going to be really useful for the district.
Again, budget constraints being what they are, being able to say, our one person in this discipline of work can now do a lot more because we have the right tool. And in many cases, it's, that lawnmower had mowed it should have mowed its last lawn like 5 years ago. We've managed to keep it together and it works, but it's now become something where we're less efficient. It's time to buy the new mower. There's many examples like that, and they're being very diligent and disciplined about at all times, how can we make these purchases high leverage so that we're saving on staff costs, saving on repair bills. So it's a substantial budget. It's been really fun watching them work through that, and those purchase orders are flying out the door.
One of the exciting ones is just FYI for you, we have part of this bond is generators. We're doing a lot of generators across the district, but we also are going to be getting a mobile generator. A few times a year, we have generators go down where we have to go rent a generator, plug it into a school just in case whatever happens. And especially our main concern is this building right here. I don't know if you remember last February, March, when we had the power outages all across. We had 9 schools go down. What people don't know is this building went down. This houses our servers. We were minutes away from not being able to have, even though our 9 schools, all of them, because that generator's down out there. Luckily, our journeyman electrician, he's amazing, was able to get it going. But that being said, in the future, we will literally plug a connection into it and run this whole building if needed. It'll really help us across the district, just sustain those schools during those outages. So it'll be great.
And one of those many themes being, resilience of our facilities, the ability to continue school and not miss a school day. And that's one of those tools. And any one generator goes down for that life safety basic function, or even the whole operation of this building, it's 15 minutes away. We can plug it in and go. So there's a lot of those things. Again,
I don't get to ask this much as with generators because they're the 2 things that I'm always asking. So are the main generators coming on, or just that temporary one this year, and then over the next 7 years putting one?
So the larger standby generators, in line with what we've done at Frog Pond and at Athey Creek, we expect from the date of order of one of those, probably 80 or more weeks from order to receipt. And then there's a lot of electrical design that has to happen to accommodate and new wiring and all these things. So the soonest we could expect probably to get those big ones is the summer of 28. Because we'd have to be ready to order a little while ago to get it installed in the summer of 27. Now, we'll be keeping close track. Again, one of the values of the Turner Townsend Erie team is that they're doing this work all over the place, as well as Arcadis, and they're keeping tabs on lead times and what's happening in the industry. And so if we find opportunities to accelerate some of those, we'd love to. But that's one of those tricky things of, the Frog Pond generator, it was literally, I think, 83 weeks from order to it showing up. So it's one of the limiters there. Yeah. Other things, there's a few small projects, like a parking lot at Westland High School, where there's some residential buildings that the district owns the property, and there's a building there. Those buildings have a small but real cost of keeping them, safe and clean and dry. And so to the extent that we have a project that will involve the removal, we're going to try and get those demolished this summer. It's a kind of a small thing, but it's little utility bills and staff time to go check on the building and make sure it's okay and no one's living in it, those sorts of things. Again, in service of operating costs and all that, if there's something that we can do that reduces operating costs and it doesn't have a lot of permit and design requirements, we're going to try to do it quickly.
Another question on that.
Yeah.
Is there any idea in the future what would be used that land for?
Oh, absolutely. In the case that we're doing the removal, like the two homes next to Westland High School, there's a bond project in the program to build a parking lot. So the parking lot will come, and it'll, won't be a disaster area there. All the, even the foundations and things would get pulled out, and we, put some gravel down and get it looking okay. And then design will begin to do the eventual project. But rather than pay the utilities and keep having a staff person go stop by periodically for another year or two, we'll remove the buildings.
That makes complete
answer?
sense. I think I missed that. It was for the parking lot. So,
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. And please always ask clarifying questions. Another one near and dear to Jeff's heart is the fire alarm at Rosemont Ridge Middle School. It's been having issues for a while. It started having bigger issues this spring, and the fire marshal was like, you really need to replace this. So we're going through kind of an expedited process to secure a design build contractor that could come in and get that replaced this summer. It's one we thought we were going to do in 2027, and there was a few weeks ago, Jeff came in, he said, after talking to the fire marshal, we really need to do this summer. I said, okay. All right, that's what we're doing.
When you're ordering parts on eBay and it says, you can't guarantee they work, but it's the only option we have a problem. So it's time to get a new system in there, so.
Yep, and it's a case where I think there's 5 fire alarm replacements in the program. Those components that we still think have a little life left in them, we'll store them so that if a part goes down at Cedar Oak or another school that has that age of system, we can do it. And then the rest of the systems are working into the program to get those replaced soon as well.
Rosemont's like 30 years old, right?
Yeah, 99, I think is when it opened, thereabouts. So yeah, and Rosemont, there's a lot, it kind of, even to me, kind of feels like a new school in a lot of ways. But it's 30 years old. So later in the program, there's full roofing replacement, most of the HVAC equipment replacement, fire alarm replacement, a lot of those things. Okay, a couple other quick ones. Over at Willamette Primary School, that's a school where is a number of new students are going to be going there next year with the consolidation of the 2 primary schools in West Linn. And so we've done some walks both there and at Cedar Oak Park, and just looking over the schools and, are there some things that we can do this summer that would really help with families coming and seeing a new school and the school being a little more full. So in particular at Willamette, there's a lot of exterior painting and just kind of refreshing. Cedar Oak got a lot of that attention a number 5 or 7 years ago. And there's just a lot of paint and finishes and things at Willamette that could really use doing. It's in the bond program. We said, if there's any way to do this summer so that all these new families coming get to experience it with that benefit, then we should do it. So we've got a project going for that and some select interior finish work as well. A big one we've been meeting on the last few weeks on the security front is video cameras. We have an aging video camera system. We have a number of replacements and updates that are coming. And the team, the IT team, the operations team have been getting together. Jeremy, our safety security supervisor, and said, I think we have a way where we can do a lot of this work this summer. So we're hoping a big camera order in the next couple of weeks. And this summer, we're going to dedicate a group of folks to go in and do a lot of camera replacements, which would be a good thing. And that's one of those things where then there's some recurring software license fees and other things, extra maintenance on these old systems that we don't have to do next year if we can get the cameras and things upgraded. So another good example of that.
Interrupt for a second?
Yeah, please.
So, as you know, we're closing 2 schools for next year. And on the West Linn side, our schools will be more full. Right? We won't be over capacity. We have enough classrooms for the students. But I think in some cases, some of those places that are classroom spaces have not most recently been used, right?
As classrooms, yeah.
Right, when you underutilize schools, sometimes that's the case. So I'm assuming that while that's not strictly a bond issue, that's something that we're paying really close attention to this summer, so that all of those schools are going to be fully ready to go. Yes,
a lot of plans, and there's a lot of things like furniture purchasing, which are in the bond and planned. And we said, well, is there some of that we should just do this summer rather than moving furniture with a few years life left from another school and bringing it over there? If we're going to replace that in 2 years, why don't we replace it this summer? So, and then there's a lot of work with principals around how will each space be used and what from operations or from the bond team needs to happen to make that go well. And maybe, Jeff, I'm happy to keep talking, but this is an area where you're deeply involved.
Yeah. So currently we're going around to every school assessing sort of, this last 2 weeks has been in West Linn, assessing what they have. And this goes for all the schools, just that we're assessing, what type of tables, what type of desks, what type of chairs are there, the type, what kind of condition are they in? Do we need to take some from this, pull this out, get rid of these ones, take some of these older ones that may have been in the other schools, move, whether it's Stafford or Bolton, utilize them to replace some of this other furniture, but also work with Remo on ordering how many new sets of furniture do we need to make sure these classrooms have good functional sets, good seats, good chairs, good tables. It's a whole process. And then we're working with Greg James, our new assistant superintendent, on what classrooms are we going to be using, what teachers are going to be where, what grade levels. There's a lot of meetings happening right now, sort of figuring out, just so we do have that great transition starting next year.
Yeah.
Does that help?
It does. I just want to share, because I know this is a public meeting.
Yeah.
It's really complicated, the final choices about which classrooms are used, which teachers are in the classrooms, because our policy, our procedures in the district has been to boundary students, but also to say if a school isn't full and you want to go to that school, that's something you can do. And so those numbers always are a little bit in flux. And so we may predict 465 students in a school, and then it ends up being 472, right? We are in the process of working with teachers, particularly the teachers at the schools that were closing. Those teachers still have jobs, right? The question for them is going to be, where am I going to be? And then for all of these schools, what grade levels are going to be in what part of the building and all that. So it gets pretty complicated as they try to sort through all of that. And we can't fully, teachers want to know as soon as they can, where am I going to be next year? We work really hard to make that happen. There's just a lot going on.
100%. Yeah, and we've been meeting with a few of the principals too, and there's a lot of concerns with the principals and the teachers and what this looks like. And I've assured them that, right now when something comes up, we need this type of desk. We'll go into our couple warehouses, we'll look, and I have like 3 to choose from. With these schools closing, we're gonna utilize and be good stewards of this furniture. And then when stuff comes up, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, let's go take a look. We're gonna go over to Stafford. We're gonna go over to Boothbury. What can we utilize from there? Because there is good furniture to be used across the district. So moving forward, we will have that inventory to make sure that classrooms, even more than now, will be suited for students. So,
And I think the next layer to add on is, for principals, regardless of the change happening at their school, there's a lot of feeling, a lot of concern, what's going to happen, what is this going to look like? And meeting with them, but then also Jeff and team do a really good job of doing the meetings with the whole staff at the school and saying, when you find out if you're moving from one room to another in your school or from this room in your school to another school, there's a whole team of people that are here to help. You will have all of the supplies you need. They will be in one place. We will talk you through exactly how to label your boxes. We'll provide all of those things. We'll provide access to, the ability if there's some, certain amount of clutter may develop over time at a school. And we have proper ways to, if it's books, there's book recycling, and there's a whole, program around that. And there, if there's some worn out things, we get that. And then, really help them see there's a schedule through the year. And then staff, we promise, you get to go and have your summer. When you get back in the fall, you're going to go to your new room, and all of your things are going to be a neat stack in the center of the room for you. They'll be waiting for you. We'll get them there. And just that encouragement, again, Jeff and team do that so well, working with them, that the first week or two, there's a lot of anxiety around it, and then people say, oh, actually, it's kind of nice. Spring cleaning mode and getting that, and then they'll come back in the fall, and their things will be there ready for them. And that happens, I don't know how many teacher moves there are on a typical year. This will be a big year, but what I keep reminding folks is we had to get what was Athey Creek Middle School empty in 3 days to be ready for Riverside construction projects to happen. And we did it. And we didn't lose anything. We got all the stuff where it needed to go. Before that, Sunset Primary School. We're actually demolishing the building 3 days after staff left. So we had about a day and a half to completely empty everything that the district had inside the building and then get it to the right place. And we did it. So again, working with all the school teams and the teachers and the leadership teams, and assuring them that we will provide the guidance and the support, and if they help pack up their things, it will be there waiting for them. And those conversations are going well. It's just beginning, and over time as staff learn those assignments, then they'll be able to start that work and it'll go well. We just keep encouraging them. This will happen with you, not to you. So.
That's a question on the classrooms. Are any spaces that weren't previously classrooms having to be turned into classrooms? Or is it just ones that hadn't been used in a while?
Students' home classrooms will be rooms that are made to be classrooms. They may have been a resource room or a book storage room the last 5 years, or, if you have the room in a primary school, maybe you do have a classroom that's an art room. That's not really the standard, but if you've got the room, sure. But yeah, the idea is, Willamette will be more on the full side, but all the numbers we're seeing are saying, yeah, the standard classrooms will be classrooms. And, we're looking at doing some work of, well, there's a second workroom at a school. Well, do we combine those workroom spaces, and do we do a little work to tune up a room to make an extra resource room? Because there was a classroom and now there isn't. Well, let's find that right room and do those minor things that can really help empower that for staff and students. So again, there's a lot of pressure at the moment, but it's exciting. It's fun to problem solve this. And every school that will have more students this fall has had far more before. Willamette has been well over 600 students before, and so on and so forth. And so there's some growth, but we're working with the teams and supporting them.
It's been kind of exciting to work alongside the principals, really, because you're in the school for so long, and this is just how it works, and sometimes it's hard seeing that different picture of how your school can run and operate. And that's where it's been fun to really work with them and just sit down, take walks, lots of conversations, and come, wait, I didn't realize that might be the better way to do it. So it's been a fun, hard process. But again, I think from the principals to district leadership down, we're really confident in how things are moving towards that.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting that conversation.
Thank you. You answered the questions that I did have. I did have another question though.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the gyms in the two primary schools. Are those going to be utilized for community sports? Or?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's the simple answer. Yeah, so regardless of other things, the plan for this fall, there's conversations about potential leasing of facilities for different uses. But one of the kind of starting points of those conversations is, outside of those school hours, we have these community programs that really value these spaces, and our requirement is that they be available for use. So they'll still be on the community use sign up page on the website, and basketball and everything else will be.
And that's a question that we get on the board quite a bit is what's going to happen at these schools, right? And one of the answers is we have a long-range planning committee to think about those kind of things. We have no plan like right now we're going to sell the school. There's a lot of thinking that would go into that kind of decision about losing the use of the school. So.
I guess interior and exterior, there's bigger fields around and everything, so, yeah.
Yeah, the intention is to generally maintain the grounds. If there's a play field at Stafford, it's going to get mowed. It will be there and available. Those sorts of things.
Yeah, facility use and our is it's one of those things that we constantly battle with, just trying to have enough spaces for everybody.
Right.
So it's something that we are constantly trying to make sure we can utilize our spaces the best we can. So in operations, that's one of our biggest things is field spaces and how do we maintain them and get them to the levels that they're safe and playable. So there's a lot of conversation around that, especially with Stafford and Bolton interiors, obviously.
All right. Thank you.
Well, the last little project thing I had, again, there was a little bit of comment up at the front of kind of the visibility of things. And so after the question of security and immediate urgent need, one of those factors in the beginning, maybe I already mentioned it, but like the carpet at West Linn High School and all the main corridors in the library, 22 years old, it's worn out. You can see where the cow paths are in the carpet. And it's one of those things where it doesn't require a big design. There's no permitting. We can just bid it and have it happen. So we're meeting, I think, next week, 22nd, with folks to get that ball rolling. It's again a way to do some quick visible work. That's we can assure folks that carpet, we got the useful life out of it. It's done. It's time to do replacement.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say about that is, when we're looking at projects to get done for this summer, it's really all the carpet in that wing, including classrooms. We couldn't get there with that. We couldn't get with where we're emptying the classrooms, do that. So we're doing it in 2 phases. First phase will be the main areas, library main areas, and the second phase will be those classroom areas.
And there's other project work that's going to happen in the program in West Linn where contractors are going to be in every classroom anyway. And so again, that's part of that work that we're doing in these months right now. What is the most, what's the best way to sequence and package the work to be efficient and not, you don't want to put in brand new carpet and then tear the ceiling out on top of the carpet right away, that sort of thing. So that's part of the work we're doing every day.
I think including, I'm sorry, I just thought of this,
No.
including in your messaging is expressing gratitude for the support of the bond. I
Oh,
don't know,
yes.
just having that be a part of every single message that we send out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has been to date, and it will continue to be. Okay. Did we talk about the bond sale? I don't think we did.
They did not.
I have one question though. You know what I'm
Please.
gonna ask about, I bet, the timing for the gym for robotics at the food fair.
The goal is summer 27. So that's one of the very first things with our architects as we get them ramped up is, okay, that's the
I
goal.
had to ask that question. That was
You
my
did.
last time I can ask it.
You did, and most
So,
appropriate.
yeah.
It's one that folks are waiting for. And it was, back at our bond summit, for those of you who were there, it was the single most, stickered item of the whole list. So there's a lot of permitting and things involved with some of the work associated with that. So there's no way we could have tried to done it this summer. But that's the goal, is to package that with other work for next year. Yes.
And I'm assuming that you've been working together with the robotics mentors and all those folks.
We will be.
Okay.
So every different kind of grouping of projects, it's, who are those key stakeholders and when are those appropriate times where we say, okay, we've gotten this concept to a point, we've talked to them over the years, we have a sense of things, but how do we get enough of a little bit of work done to where there's something to comment on, get that good feedback, then get another good way through the design, so there's some real design to talk through, bring that group in again, do a check-in, and then get the project going. So absolutely, and there's, athletics projects, and how do we get, coaches and athletic directors and community sports, and every different theme, there'll be different folks that we're looking to check in with.
I think me and Remo have really worked hard in giving people their voice, and that comes from robotics. It comes from coaches, athletic directors, principals, you name it. Just so everybody feels like they have a voice in it, and input on all these projects. Again, we're so appreciative of the support of this bond, and part of it is, especially working with your ADs and your coaches. I always look at who are they in communication with the most? It's the public, the people that are supporting this. They're the ones that are hearing the frustrations. They're the ones hearing the excitement. And so it's critical for us to have them a part of these conversations. And it's number one in my book to make sure that happens. I know Remo's right on board. So 100%.
Absolutely, and good question. I probably say it too often, but I always appreciate the thoughtful questions that help make sure that we're, communicating out for the things you all think about.
Bond update.
Yeah, so the bonds, we had authorization in December from the board to pursue the sale of bonds, the issuance of bonds. So yesterday, it was like a week ago now, yesterday morning, we all got to get on a little secure link that shows the software and watches the bond sale happen. We targeted the sale of around 130 million of the 190 million, and received almost 6 times the offers to buy the bonds that we had. So for every $1 of bonds we had to sell, we got almost $6 in offers to purchase. What that signals is faith in the credibility of the district as an entity to repay the bonds, and a very strong, favorable market, in general for public bonds. It allowed us to reduce the interest rates below what was expected. So when we go out on the ballot, we have to make a statement of the bond indebtedness could last this many years, and it could average this many dollars per thousand, and so forth. Now, we've only sold a portion, so we can't do the exact math of the comparison, but we are well below the interest rates that the district had accounted for at the time of the bond. So the community that's paying off that debt through their taxes will be paying materially less than we thought last fall. And I don't have all the finalized numbers, but it's something, it'll go to the board. There'll be a full report. That information will be available. But multiple decisions were made that really helped. One being kind of like a mortgage on your house. If you do a 15-year or a 30-year, changes your payment, but it also changes how much interest you pay. So the terms are different, but rather than the 30-year amount that we talked about at the time of the election, we shortened it to 24 years. And that really reduced the amount of interest that the community will end up paying. And in addition, the specific debt structure, how much is going for each year, it gets very complicated. If anyone really wants to do a deep dive, I can talk a really long time about it. But the timing of when on the calendar we were and the debt structure and all of those things led to a very successful and favorable bond sale. The community will pay less for the projects, and that's a really, really good thing. Any kind of questions around that?
I'm not a marketing and communications person, you are, but I think a lot about the comments that are made to the board and to us throughout the last 2 years, and how the district spends money and needs to look at its budget and bring somebody in and analyze things. And we know there's limited resources around communications and marketing, but I don't know how to do this, but I think there is a story in this that I think the public should know about, because it does matter, and that sort of changes the narrative that's often out there and gets cycled over and over and over again. So just I think as much as we can, these like good nuggets of stories, I think will be really important, because it signals that there's good work, there's good staff, there's good oversight, and there's intentional thinking, and that's going to help the public build trust. And I think that's probably something that's needed right now.
Very well said. And that's again
We agree.
why we are leaning heavily into that and saying, Andrew, Justin, you guys know that world way better than I can tell you the things in construction speak. Work with us, help us to better tell that. And I hate to say tell that story, but it is what you say, but it's not a fantasy. These are the facts. But how do we convey that clearly to the public to say, we take the fiscal stewardship really seriously. And here's where our close, attentive work has resulted in favorable outcomes. And that's something that folks need to hear.
Yeah, and it is a story with facts, right?
Yes.
It is a narrative, it is a story, because people remember stories. That's what's really important.
Yes. And that's why we're really glad he's going to help us with that.
No
Right?
pressure, Andrew.
I think Dr. Ludwig has something to chime in as well.
Oh, yes, please.
Comment. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yeah, that, very well said, Kathy. It's about 2 weeks after you're a district employee where a certain amount of your credibility goes away. And that doesn't mean we're not gonna do everything we're talking about tonight. But it is a very interesting point of, what about a cover letter over each quarterly report? Where we can provide the data and a certain amount, something that's nice and useful and you got good photos and good data and things, but maybe that's a piece of the conversation July too. Like, is there another component that comes alongside and extends that kind of non-staff credibility?
I'm curious, does West Linn have, do you know what the Bloomsbury Messenger is? I'm looking at you because I think you're from West Linn.
Yes.
Okay. Wilsonville has a newspaper that goes out, like it's a physical newspaper that goes out to every single community member. Does West Linn have something like that?
Yeah, the tidings and the spokesman.
No, it's
This
not-
is a
No,
digital
it's from the
newsletter.
Oh, this from the city.
They have
Yeah,
a
sorry.
weekly email. West Linn has a weekly email they send out.
Yeah, they have a digital newsletter, and I will say we frequently ask for information to be included, and it's very hit or miss when that's included.
And that's because do you feel like that's because you're from the school district, or you're a district employee?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
All right.
Also, those are all one paper now, so there's no spokesman and no tidings anymore.
Right.
Yes,
No
all the review.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a little bit snippets for, yeah.
Yeah, but I think to the spirit of the comment, I think one thing we could be doing is re-engaging with counterparts at both cities to talk a little bit about that. How might we work together? But again, to what extent is it district staff folks in doing that, and to what extent might there be opportunities for others, again, where that third party credibility has a lot of value.
So 2 things come to mind. One, quarterly updates is too infrequent, in my opinion. So
Okay.
I do think of monthly email to at least this group.
Mhm.
And if it's regurgitated elsewhere on the district, that's fine. But I think sending it specifically to the bond oversight committee will be really helpful, because we're the
Mhm.
ones in our community talking to parents. Like, I have a neighbor that's asking what's happening with Beckman, things, and that type of thing. So we're on the ground. I think that would be important. And it doesn't, I don't really care about fancy looking things. Like, sometimes it's a bullet list with some pictures, and then I can regurgitate that in the conversation, right? Like, so I don't want, I'm not advocating the district spend a lot of time making things look fancy. If they want to do that for the quarterly report, I think that's fine. The other piece that I don't know, but at this meeting, could city people be invited to it, and we have a conversation about how can you work with us citizens in the district to get this news out to the city, and make it more of a conversation where it's district, city people, or residents, and them. Might that be more successful than individual reaching out from the district or us reaching out? I don't know, but especially having both too, West Linn and Wilsonville, I think they have different ways of sharing information. Would an invitation to this public meeting for a conversation be beneficial or not? Related around the bonds, I think projects in particular, not the school district in general, but I don't know.
It's an interesting question. I'm definitely taking notes with all these ideas. I think it'll probably take a little time to kind of digest and talk as a team. What is that, best path to try to achieve some of those goals? I know, generally speaking, relationships between staffs at the district and both cities are great. I had a great conversation with a couple of folks the other day with some West Linn staff of just, making sure I don't need a permit for this and this, right? I think I know that to be true, but I don't want to surprise you or have anything come up, and they're gracious in giving a little bit of time to do those. And so, we occasionally do ask for each other to maybe attend a meeting of some kind. So I want to kind of have a little
Yeah,
opportunity.
and I would specifically think more on the communication staff and the counselors, like public facing, whether they're counselors or the mayors. I think that piece might be more beneficial than other staff sort of working on the project, but
Yeah.
more with that that idea of how do we get this news out there? How do we work together? Because it's benefiting all of our communities in really important ways.
Create more advocates.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what happened at the summit. In my opinion, that's the first summit I've been a part of, interacting and having those conversations with everybody. I think to me, it's like a continuance of that, but then also when we get back to getting to another summit one day, like it's not been, oh, we haven't talked to you for 4 or 5 years. It's like, oh, we've built these new relationships in these ways of engaging.
Yeah, I think the short answer to what we're all getting at is really we need to be consistent and we need to be as frequent as possible. We have really short attention spans in this day and age, and I'll tell you, having been in this role for about 8 years now, we try really hard to share this type of information with families, and the reality we face is people have busy lives. They don't really pay attention until it impacts them directly. So it's our job to make that connection for them. How does this impact you directly? Why should you care? Because people got a lot going on, and they're not really going to pay attention unless they can make that connection. It's something we're always striving to do. But being consistent and frequent. And
and I would say, maybe leveraging too. So like another idea that maybe it's not district, but if I'm volunteering myself at least, but if we have the information and there's some facilitation of like, we're going to get into these PTA meetings. And so a bond oversight person is going to come. It doesn't have to be a board member, doesn't have to be a staff person, but the bond oversight person is going to go and share, here's some updates that have been happening that impact your school.
I mean, that's something I'd be really happy to do personally. Like yes, that would happen because who do I talk to? I talk to my friends who are around me. I mean, and folks who do end up, asking me questions, but I feel like it is more limited. It's a more limited of a group that I prefer to be talking to. I'd be happy, I mean, especially now that our meetings are going to be quarterly.
Yeah,
that's something I'd be really happy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. This is,
I was thinking about the reports to like city councils too, just like a state of the schools, because I think that might be another way to get it out is, from funds opening, if people aren't paying attention in one place, they might be looking. Sometimes people pay attention to what goes on in city council.
Mhm.
You could get 5 minutes on the agenda, or it is a partnership, and I think it's important for the city leaders to see that partnership.
Yeah. A lot of great feedback on this. My kind of note here was kind of combined communication strategy. I don't totally know what that means yet, but that kind of solidified based on all of this feedback here. We're kind of at the end of the agenda. I do want to make sure we set the date for the next meeting. And then I don't want to just kind of call time out and stifle the conversation, but also want to invite, if you're anything like me, on your drive home, you'll think of a few more ideas of how these things, other ideas for these kind of topics. Please email me. Let me know. We want to, again, some communication should already be coming out to you over the next few months, well in advance of the quarterly report. But anything else we get of ideas from you on these things can help us be better prepared for what we send to you a little in advance of the meeting and our conversation in July. The goal is to be well aligned, and we work really hard to be good listeners, good receivers, and synthesizers of information so that what we provide back is useful or, reasonably close on the first swing. So, yeah.
Not related to that, but so I think if most people have heard, I'm not, my term is up in June, and my term will be up. So I just wanted to say really quickly, so I've been on this committee for 5 years, and it has been phenomenally wonderful. And so that's what I'm thinking about, is going up and letting people know that this opportunity is available.
Mm-hmm.
That's an opportunity. That makes sense. And I think it's really important. I'd be happy to talk to people or write something up, because I have had nothing but an amazing experience seeing things, having questions answered. There's never been a moment where I felt like I couldn't find out what I wanted to know and to pay attention to it. And just the professionalism from this group has just been phenomenal. So I would highly recommend it to anybody who just really wants to get involved. It's something that, except for when the bond was going on, we're meeting weekly, other than it's not a big lift, but it's really, really been important and I found it very valuable. So that could be, for me, and I'm thinking this is an opportunity, this is a place to say, you want to know some more? Here, this is something that you can do. I'd be willing to talk to anybody who wants to run.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, and you've mentioned this a little to me before, and I've expressed it, but to say it in front of the group, really appreciate your time on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been a reliable, steady, thoughtful partner in this work over the time you've been here. It's been incredibly beneficial.
I love being able to get and ask questions to myself.
Yes. So, okay. Well, date for the next meeting. Thank you.
You pick it.
I'm gonna be out of town, so let's pick this date.
So, so we've often been doing kind of the second or third Wednesday in a month. That is, so the second Wednesday would be July 8th. That's right up against a July 4th holiday.
I cannot do the third Wednesdays because that's CCC's meeting. So if we pick that, I just won't be able to come.
Okay. I am hoping to take a summer vacation for the first, a material summer vacation for the first time since 2015. So I'm hoping to be gone the last 2 weeks of July. Looking at calendars now, what does the 8th look like for folks?
Looks good to me.
I think I'm out
That's okay.
then.
Okay.
Very
And we will-
flexible, but-
Sure. And we only have the 4 committee members here. So maybe the one time I remember to talk about this up front, maybe we send an email out to the full group here and look at a few different dates in that time frame. Summer schedules can be a little different. There's nothing, especially special about second Wednesdays per se, especially in the summer. So we'll try to get useful days, see if we can find a way to get at least most of the committee here. We'll try to pick that date. That sound good?
So is the June board meeting when new people are appointed?
July.
July.
But there are new long meetings.
Yeah, new long.
Yeah, it would be typical that in May, staff would present to the board and say there's one or more openings. The board would announce it open, and then at a meeting in June, they would select.
Okay.
Depending on the lift, occasionally it's gone to the July meeting. The board's had some busy budget seasons the last couple of few years, so there's always a little bit of flex there. That would be pretty typical.
And we have 2 board positions opening up, is that correct?
I believe there's 2.
Yes.
2.
Yeah.
David.
Oh, and David, okay. So, yeah, so I expect we'll announce at the May board meeting that those positions will be available. Everyone is, of course, welcome to reapply, but it is a reapplication each time. So we'll make sure to be reaching out to David and understanding his intentions, making sure he knows that process is coming, as well as, of course, getting out to the community. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for the time. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Me too.
Evening.